Hello, I'm author Nancy Flinchbaugh, and this is my podcast, Writing for Change. On this podcast, you'll hear from both myself and other writers who write for change. And today I'm launching a new set of interviews with teachers who are teaching for change. Today I'm interviewing an educator, David Duane. David is the department chair of the science department at the Frin School in Massachusetts, where he also teaches science. He helped his fellow educator, Tete Kapua, found the Witness Tree Institute of Ghana in 2018 and has served on the board since then, helping with various aspects of the program, including traveling with cohorts to Ghana. Well, welcome, David Duane, and thank you for joining me today to talk a little bit about the Witness Tree of Ghana and your experiences with this wonderful organization. So I first want to just ask you, what is the Witness Tree of Ghana?
Witness Tree Institute of Ghana is first of all, it's a 501c nonprofit corporation with a mission of as a providing a program for educators both in the United States and in Ghana. And that mission is to bring Americans to Ghana and to work with Ghanaian teachers to learn from each other. So American educators who are in this program are learning from the program in Ghana, but also from the Ghanaians that they work with, from the Ghanaian teachers, to develop curriculum to bring back to their schools in the United States. And it's reciprocal. So the Ghanaians are learning from the Americans as well to bring back their learning about education, the Americans' education system, and so forth, back to their schools to make their schools evolve in a way that is good for Ghana.
Okay, thank you. That's very precise. And I really enjoyed, I just returned from one of the Witness Tree experiences, and it was wonderful to get to meet Ghanaian teachers and to learn how they're incorporating their culture into their education. And yeah, it's just a very rich experience. So tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in this project.
Well, I've gotten involved. I've been working with Witness Tree since the founding, and the director and founder Tete Kobla I worked with at the Fenn School for years and years and years. The Fenn School is a private school in Concord, Massachusetts. And Tete was always interested in making sure that I worked with him specifically in a lot of different capacities, but very closely on issues of DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusivity. And from our role there, as we were working with faculty and students, he sort of came to the conclusion that he would like to expand DEI offerings by working with Ghanaians. And that was where the seeds were planted for the concept of the Witness Tree Institute of Ghana. So when he retired as an educator, he retired for the purpose of devoting his full time and energy to the Witness Tree Institute. He was able to then freed up the time to sort of like work on the planning, work on the logistics, and so forth. So my role has been, as part of that, is since the beginning, helping with the planning, helping with the implementation of the project. And we have now had 5 years of participants from both the United States and Ghana and other countries as well. We've had Canadians, Jamaicans. We had a woman from India a couple of years ago. This year, we also had a Cameroonian from Nigeria. So it's very international as far as the participants go. But we've been able to have 5 really successful years of summer sessions where educators have come from the United States to work with the Ghanaians. And we just finished our 5th summer for that.
So you, on my cohort, you were actually there as one of the leaders. So have you gone over every year with the program?
I haven't gone every year. We also rely on a support staff in the United States to help with logistics, to help with implement things, to do some business practices, as well as things like upkeep of the website, upkeep of the blogging, the newsletter, and so forth. So I've worked in that capacity on some summers, but this past summer I was able to come to Ghana and I worked for 2 sessions. So typically, in a summer, Witness Tree Institute offers 2 sessions. So one like late June into July, one late July, possibly into August.
So what's been a memorable experience for you when you have been in Ghana with Witness Tree?
I think there's a lot of memorable experiences. I could highlight the work that we do at the slave fortresses on Donko and Sor, which is the Asin Manso slave river site where captured Africans received their last bath before being auctioned off, to meeting the king of the Asante in Kumasi. I think all of those are really kind of poignant. But what really stands out for me, from my sense as being a leader in the program, is to working with the educators and the participants, both Ghanaians and the Americans, and watching this transformation of just values of skill just take place. The program is incredibly transforming, and to witness that again and again firsthand is a real kind of highlight for me.
And that's part of the intention, right? To have a transformative educational experience for everybody.
Absolutely, and that transformative experience, the intent from that is to then go further by making our schools and education about Africa more holistic, better curriculum and so forth on that end, as well as on the Ghanaian end, where they can incorporate a different sort of like pedagogical approaches to use this experience to develop programs for the Ghanaian students, and that's certainly happened.
Yeah, I really experienced that in terms of you. I think you did a good job of helping us get a glimpse of the culture of Ghana, and especially through the teachers that are part of our group, their joy and caring, and yeah, just their personalities really spoke to me a lot, and then learning also about the Ghanaian education, which maybe in some ways is more positive than the way the Americans are focusing on the test right now, because they're really trying to educate the whole child and also to incorporate traditional understandings, dance, music, stories, wisdom.
That's more of a recent development, and I think there is a push in the country to really kind of expand that. And I think some of the workshops that we had with Elikin, for instance, who works with Dr. Kushi Kuwar on making sure that the education system is for Ghanaians. I think historically, the Ghanaian education system evolved out of the British colonial system, and the intent and the mission for that system was to train clerical workers for a British colonial administration. And the legacy of that still lingers to a great extent. And one of the goals of both the country, but also how Witness Tree can kind of support this, is to make sure that we're incorporating the identity of Ghanaians as part of the education system, valuing the role of music, dance, and art and learning, and having a system, a course curriculum that speaks to Ghanaians, not to the Western world.
Yeah, I was really impressed with that. So when we talk about transformation, what are some of the ways that this program has transformed you personally and professionally?
I think I'll start professionally. As in my role as an administrator at a school, I really incorporate a lot of aspects of the gracious space, a lot of aspects of what, the conversations we've had as far in my role. I treat my department as a gracious space and am encouraging my teachers to really adhere to those principles as we have discussions to further the learning of our students at our school. Um, uh, as a science educator, I'm able to incorporate a lot of things. I mean, even though it may not seem directly related to science, just as far as like using Ago Ame as a class management tool, starting each class off with an African proverb that we can kind of reflect upon, interjecting stories, the storytelling aspect of learning. Especially in a biology class where I can kind of rely on stories from like, the Cocoa Research Institute or the Kakum National Forest and the Canopy Walk, directly related to science there. So professionally, I've been able to incorporate a lot. I think personally, it has helped the evolution and growth of my personal journey as far as having greater understanding of the multiple aspects and the wonderful sort of like, diversity of cultures of humanity that can be truly embraced. And that can kind of help just with understanding in communication in both personal lives, in addition to the professional lives that I kind of highlighted.
Well, that's good. I added another question I had. I kind of have my podcast Writing for Change. Like I like to say, I'm trying to write for peace, justice, and the earth. Is there a way that you might say you're teaching for change as you participate in Witness Tree?
Yeah, I think, absolutely. I mean, the mission is to change the narrative, and that narrative primarily about places like Ghana in Africa. You can extrapolate to Africa, changing the narrative through education, through valuing to a much greater degree the contributions to world history of Africa. Humanity evolved in Africa. We all kind of can tie our lineage back to that continent, and that's not always understood through Western eyes.
I love that blog you did, by the way, in which you talked about that, which the
yeah,
listeners can find on your website. But yeah, that we are all Africans because Homo sapiens developed there, right?
yeah.
And then spread out around the world. But go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, well, I was about finished with my train of thought anyway. But in terms of just using that as that sort of like that experiential education experience that the educators are having to bring back to their classrooms to transform their classes and to impact students in the United States in very positive ways. Whether you are a descendant of the African diaspora or not.
Mhm. Well, that's great. So would you recommend that teachers participate in the program?
Absolutely. I mean, I think, the transformational aspects of it, the impact it has had on schools and on pedagogy and curriculum, from developing COCO projects to understanding, much more about, say, the Asante Kingdom or Adinkra symbols. It goes a long way. And, Ghana and Africa have a lot to offer, and we can listen to them and we can listen to their stories and to kind of make our world a better world. And incorporating things like African spirituality and thinking, in our daily lives can go a long way. And so there's a lot to be gained by that from participating in this. So it has a lot of practical things, and as I kind of highlighted before, how it impacts individuals both professionally and personally is transforming in a very kind of positive, upbeat, and authentic way.
Well, thank you for talking with me today about this. I'll be happy to share it. And is there anything else you'd like to add?
You know, I just, uh, as far as like, participation, like encouraging individuals to join up and try to enroll in this program. Um, Everybody who's done it has been, transformed. Everybody who's done it has walked away from this experience, I would say, a better human being. In African spirituality, you have to earn your personhood. You have to become, a a good ancestor. Um, and this is a kind of part of that journey to become a better person, a more inclusive person, and kind of like just celebrate who we are as humans and how we can kind of make connections, very tangible connections in some ways, but some more abstract ones in others. So, I think that's it, it kind of stand out for part of this program as well.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you. It's good to see you again and talk with you.
And thank you, Nancy. It was a pleasure talking to you.
You can find out more about the Witness Tree Institute of Ghana on their website at witnesstreeinstitute.org. If you are a teacher and want to apply to Journey to Ghana, you'll also find the application for their 2026 program there soon. Just keep checking back. You can see pictures of the cohorts visiting Ghana on their Facebook page at Witness Tree Institute. In addition, you can find some YouTube videos on Tete Kopla, the director's YouTube channel, where he has two playlists, the Witness Tree Institute of Africa, or just Witness Tree Institute Africa, and Witness Tree Institute Contemporary Ghana. Thank you for coming and listening. You can find out more about my Writing for Change on my website at nancyflinchbaugh.com or check out my YouTube channel at Nancy Flinchbaugh. I'm also on Facebook at Nancy Flinchbaugh Author. The Writing for Change podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Just search for Writing for Change, Nancy Flinchbaugh. Have a great day.